All right. So, good afternoon. Welcome to our QuickBooks Point of Sale Reports webinar. We're going to take a look at some of the various reports that are available in QuickBooks Point of Sale. We'll take a look at how we can modify those reports. We'll also talk about creating a custom report. So, the first thing I want to do is start out and not take that away. Is I want to switch to my point of sale. And so I've got my point of sale. Now we want to take a look at reports. There are a couple of three different ways to get to reports. I can get to reports by going to reports in the blue button. I can get to reports by going to reports in the navigator. Or I can get to reports by going up to reports on the menu bar. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go up here to reports on the menu bar because I like to go there. I can then choose to go anywhere I want to go with just a couple of mouse clicks. If I go to one of the other options like reports, then I get the report center. And from there, I can either choose one of these common reports, or I can go up here to all reports, then choose what area I want to choose a report in, and choose that report. So you can see under sales, we have several different types of reports to choose from. We've got best and worst sellers, most common returns, an inventory and item summary, a detail. What the sales detail does is it shows you each individual receipt that happened during that particular time frame. We have a department summary that shows you the sales you've had for a particular department, a style summary, a vendor summary. If you use a promo code summary, a discount summary, which shows you a breakdown of the discounts that you have had during whatever period of time you're looking at. A date comparison, that shows you your sales in two different time periods. We have a mobile sales that shows us the sales that you've done on a mobile device and details of those mobile device sales. So if I come up here and pick an item summary, and I pick a date range, and let's see, we go this year to date, I apply that date range, that shows me all my sales I've had this year, and it shows me how many of each item that I sold. I have it sorted by department, so it also breaks it down by department, and I can see how many of those items I've sold for a particular department. I can scroll on down through there and see my other departments, and at the bottom, I see the total, my retail, my cost, and my margin, as well as the total number of items I've sold. And you see, my point of sale isn't terribly busy because I don't really make any sales on here other than when I'm demoing something or showing something. So therefore, my numbers are kind of low. I can open a second report if I want to, by simply going back up here to all reports, choosing sales, and I could open the department summary, and again, choose a date range, apply that date range, and now I see my summary for each department, how many items I sold in that department, the retail of those sales, the cost of those sales, and the margins for that particular department. Okay. From there, we can go and run another report, or if I'm done with that report, I could close it out. I've also got an option when I'm looking at a report to print it. I could also send it to Excel, assuming, of course, you have Excel on your computer. You can send it out to Excel. You can then modify that report in Excel or send that file off to somebody else. Under sales, I've also got that date comparison, well, discount summary report I mentioned. That shows me my discounts. And you can see I really haven't done much. I've got one for comp, but it zeroes out, which tells me that I probably gave a discount on a comp item and then returned that item later, canceling it out back to zero. I can do a date comparison, which shows me two different dates. I can see my sales for August of this year. I can see my sales for February and March of last year. Up here at the top, I can choose what numbers I'm comparing. And if I change this to be February of this year and March of this year, then I compare February and March of this year to February and March of last year. And so I can choose whatever date ranges I would like to take a look at. When I close a report, if I reopen that same report again, I'm going to have the same information in it I had last time I opened that report. Whenever you change a report, it remembers what the last setting was, and that's what comes up next time you run that report. Which with some things, you've got to be really careful. If I go out here and do this item summary report, and I come up here and modify this report, I can make changes to it. I can add or remove columns. If I want to see additional columns, or I want to not see certain columns, I can remove those columns. Whatever I add or remove, that is the same stuff that's going to come up next time I run that report. Not only can I add or remove columns, but I can filter data. When I filter data, I choose what information exactly I'm going to see. If I wanted to narrow this down and not see all of the departments, I could do that. If I come over here to departments, click on the drop down, I can choose any departments I want to see. If I said I just want to see the apparel department and say OK, and I say save, and I say run, I just see the apparel department. If I close out of my item summary and open it again, I still just see my apparel department. I don't see anything beyond that. So you've got to be careful that you are seeing what you think you're going to see. If I think, well, there's something missing here, I can go up here to modify and go down here to revert, and that reverts the sale to the original out-of-the-box information, which is this month to date. I can then change my date back to this year to date, and I get back the report we started with. So I can flip things around and see or hide anything I would like to. If I want to make a modification and I want to see just my apparel department, and I modify that so that all I see is my apparel department, but at the same time, I don't want to lose my regular report. When I say OK and save this and run it, I can go up here to I want to. I can go to memorize this report, and I can call it item summary apparel, and I can say OK. Now if I close that report and I go back and run the item summary report, I get the original report. And if I go back to year to date, I'll get that one. If I close out of that one, come down here to memorize reports, I can look down through here and find my item summary apparel report that I just saved. I said I can find it. You're not listening to me, computer. There it is. And I choose that report, and I get the apparel version. If I go back and choose the sales item summary again, I get the one, and because I exited out of it with the full year to date showing, that's where it comes back up to when I go back into it. The first time when I went back into it, it was back on the default before I changed it to the apparel version. So I can have the two different reports, one that I memorized and the standard, as long as when I modify the standard report, I go to I want to memorize it before I exit it. Then when I exit it, I can have the original report still. And so that's modifying a basic report. Also here under sales reports, I can run some graphs. I can run a graph for merchandise that was sold. And again, I can change it to year to date. And we can see the merchandise that was sold. I get a legend over here, which tells me each item and how much that particular item was. I can look at it by item name. I could look at it by vendor. I could look at it by department. However, I wanted to review that particular bit of information. I could look at it by retail. I could look at it by cost or by quantity, whichever I wanted to see. And again, when I exit this report, that's the way it's going to come up next time I run that report. Also under graphs, I've got a really cool one here, which is sales over time. Sales over time shows you a graph of your sales over whatever time period you're looking at. Up here, we have how are we viewing that. So I've got it by the hour. So I am seeing my sales broken down per hour. I can see them by day of the month. What days of the month are my sales the best on? What week of the year are they best on? What months are they the best on? Or what day of the week are they the best on? And so I can choose to look at that information any way I want. I can look at it by number of receipts, extended price, extended cost, margin, or margin dollars. And that was kind of a cool report once you have enough data collected, because it gives you an idea of when you're the busiest and when you need to have the most people on hand to man the store. You can do it by hour to know what hours of the day are the best, by day to know which days of the week are the busiest and which days you need the most help on. All right. We can also run a graph for a date comparison that lets you compare two dates, and it shows you how those dates compare between this year and last year. Obviously, my sales this year are way down from my sales last year. For the month of August. We could also look at an employee comparison, which lets you see, assuming you have employees sign in and out, which employee is making most of the sales. And again, you can choose whatever date range you want to look at, and it will break those sales down and show you that information. Also under sales, we have a sales tax report. The sales tax report shows us by a summary of sales tax collected, and depending on what time period we look at, shows you the total number of sales and the amount of sales tax that was collected against those sales. If you do shipping, you can also run a report on shipping that may have occurred. Under cash drawer reports, we have the X out, the Z out drawer count or the Z out store close, and a payout list, which gives you a report for any payouts that you may have done out of the register. An X out and a Z out are very similar information. The X out is designed to be a report you can run any time of the day or week or whatever, and you can run it for whatever date or time period you want to run it for. You can run it to show sales for a single day. You can run it to show sales for a week. You can run it to show you sales for a month. Whereas Z out is generally run as the end of day report to show you your sales for that day or the prior day. And it's usually the current day. There are two Z outs you can run, store close and drawer count. The information they show you is essentially the same information. There's no need to run both of them because the actual data is going to be exactly the same between a Z out store close and a Z out drawer count, with the exception of the drawer count as you do just that, count the monies in the drawer. And so it compares how much money is currently in the drawer to how much money you think should have been in the drawer. And it shows you whether you're over or short or right on with the amount of cash that came and went on a particular day. It also records those drawer count reports, and you can go back and review them for up to 30 days. Payments reports let you look at information regarding different payment types. You have a payment summary, which will show you your different payment types that you have for whatever time period you select. And it shows you how much you took in for each payment type: cash, debit, credit, And I also added to mine Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express to break down the credit number, checks, accounts, gift cards, or gift certificates. So you can run this for whatever date period you want, and it breaks down and shows you the sales that occurred on each day of the month if you run it for a full month, or you can run it for a single day. There's also the list of checks. That will show you a list of the checks that you have done during your time period, what receipt the check was on, what the check number was, and what the amount of the sale was. You can take a look at customers. Well, I didn't want to go to customers, I want payments. You can look at a list of gift certificates that you have sold or that you have redeemed. Negative numbers are gift certificates that you sold. Positive numbers are gift certificates that you redeemed. If your time period includes the time period for when the gift certificate was sold and when it was redeemed, you would see the minus, you would see the plus, and you would see the remaining balance between the how much was used and how much was purchased. You also get that same basic information for your gift cards, and I haven't done any gift cards. You also are able to look at a list of your credit cards, and you can see the credit card sales when they occurred, what date, what receipt number, and what the amount of the sale was. You also get a debit card list, which shows you any that use debit cards. And if you did account charges, you also get a list of account charges that were made and whether they were payments or whether they were using that account. Under customers, you can run a list of your customers. The customer list shows you your customers. It shows you the names, their addresses, and their email if they have one, as well as I've got mine showing the customer's account balances. Customer sales shows a breakdown of your customer sales. When it is blank, that means I had 33 sales that did not have a customer name on them. I've also got the individual item sales. You'll notice I get the magnifying glass with the Z in it. That means I can zoom in. So I can point at one of these, I can double click on it, and it will open up the sales for that particular customer. Also under customers, we get layaways and sales orders, as well as work order histories. We can take a look at layaway detail. That would show us any layaways that we might have. I don't have any. Sales orders, which shows any sales orders we might have. I can click on the plus, and I can see the details of what actually is on that particular sales order. I also can look at work orders, which I don't have any of. An order summary shows me a summary of the orders that I have and who's the customer. Again, I can double click on it and I can see the sales order for that particular customer. I can click on the plus and expand each one. I click on expand up here at the top and expand all of them at once. We also have, point of sale has the rewards that you can do for members. I can go down here and I can see who is a member of my rewards, and I can take a look at that. I can point at one, I can double click on it, and I can see the details of that particular customer. I can also see reward history, which shows me rewards that were redeemed. Moving on to items. Under items, we have the basic item reports. The summary report will show us our on-hand inventory broken down by department. It shows the number of items we have on hand. It also shows me the number of items I have on order for that particular department, as well as the cost of those items and the retail of those items. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom of the list, it gives me my grand total for the store. I can also do a summary with activity. The summary with activity report is kind of cool. It shows me my current inventory on hand for each department. It also shows me what I've sold for each department based on whatever date range I am looking at. And so I can see how many items I sold during that date range, but how many I currently actually have on hand. I can also modify this report, but going up here to modify, I can add to it the receiving information, what I've received in that particular department, as well as purchase order information. I can also add to that list vendors as well as departments, and I can even get down to details by adding item names and item numbers and sizes and attributes. So if I run that one again, now I get what I've received from that particular department, and I also get what I might have on order in each particular department. So I've got something on order in the puzzles department. And I can see that I've received some t-shirts. And so it shows me what I've received and what I've ordered. Again, I can go up here and memorize that report if I want, or I can just go back to modify, revert it back to the way it started, or I can simply go and remove the extra columns that I added and save it and run it. And then I get back to just inventory and sold. Remember that sold is what was sold during the time period I have up here. Inventory is what I have at the moment. Inventory numbers are always at the moment. And I can close that one. My item list shows me a list of all of my items. I've got them sorted by department. I can see how many I have on hand, my margin, my cost, my active price. Cost is the cost per item. Active price is the price per item, where extended cost is the cost for the total number of items I have on hand, and extended price is the retail for the total number of items I have on hand. I also have a column over here called picture assigned, which means that it would have a check mark in there if that item happened to have a picture assigned to it. And I've only got about 2 or 3 items that have pictures, so there's not many check marks. We also can do an inventory valuation. Inventory valuation is kind of a neat report. Inventory valuation allows you to choose a date and find out what was your inventory on that particular date. This is the only inventory report that shows you inventory at any time other than at the moment. It's not a right now report. It shows you the inventory on the date that you choose. So you can go back and see what was your inventory at the beginning of this quarter, what was your inventory at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the month, whenever you want to look at it, by simply changing the date up here and applying that date range, and you get a custom report to that time frame. There's a report for inventory turn. There is a summary graph, which shows you a summary of your inventory. It gets a bit busy with all the stuff. We can look at it by department, by item type, by vendor, by item name, by item description, by attributes, or by size. And again, by cost, by quantity. And we can look at it for the company quantity, the on-hand quantity of the current store you're looking at, what's on order by margin, margin dollars, retail, customer order quantity, all kinds of fun stuff. If you have more than one store, the MultiStore Inventory report allows you to look at your inventory in multiple stores. I've got one store that I'm looking at. I could modify this report, and I could add an additional store. And I can add that one. And I can say OK and run that report. And it shows me the quantities I have in that store. And as you see, it's terribly exciting because I have nothing in that store at all. But if you have multiple stores, you can see how much you have in each store. We also have quantity adjustments and cost adjustments. You can look at a summary of your quantity adjustments and your cost adjustments, or detail. Detail shows you each individual adjustment memo, where the summary just kind of shows you by department how much has been adjusted for that particular department. Items get adjustment memos when you manually change the quantity or cost of an item, or when you do a physical inventory, you're going to get a quantity adjustment for all the items that have different quantities than the system thought you had for that particular item. Cost memos give you the same information by department, what items have changed cost, and what was that cost difference. If you don't have any quantity of an item, when you change cost, the cost difference is 0. We also have reports for transfers, which shows you anything you transferred between stores. And I really don't do much transferring between stores, so my transfer report is really boring. Under purchasing, we're able to see what we have on order by a summary or by detail. We can also see a report for cash requirements, which shows how much money we're going to need to pay for those orders when they come in. So I don't have too much on order right now. The detail would allow me to see that particular purchase order. And the cash requirement tells me when I'm going to need that money to pay for that particular purchase order. We can see what's due now, what's due 30, 60, 90, or more than 90 days in the future. Employee reports, if you pay commission, you can do a commission report that shows you how much commission each employee earns. It automatically calculates that commission on any sales that employee's name is attached to. We have employee sales, and what sales a particular employee makes during the specified date range. We also have under employees, we have a tip summary. We can also look at timesheets. We can look at a weekly timesheet, which if you have your employees clock in and out, shows you their clock in and out for whatever time period you're looking at, this week, last week, and it shows you how much they clocked in for on each particular day of that time period. There's also sales over, get back down there. There's also a time clock detail, which shows you each clock in and out, and a time clock summary, which lets you specify a date range, and it shows you the total amount of time that employee clocked in and out on during that time frame. Financial exchange gives you reports about exchanging data with QuickBooks accounting. Memorized reports are those reports that you memorize because it's things you think you want to rerun over and over again. Today's receipts, busy times, best 20 items are standard memorized reports that come by default on your system. The other ones are all ones that I've created for one reason or another. All right. And as you see, you can modify a report, and you can modify any report that you choose by going to Modify. You can add or remove columns. Anything with a check mark is already on the report. You can uncheck it to remove it, or you can check something to add it. Like if I want the item number with these items, I can also add that. I can grab it and I can drag it up here so that I can put it just before the item name. I can save it and run it, and it will add the item number. I can right-click on the header, adjust column width. It will readjust the columns so I can see the widest thing in that column, whether it's some of the data or whether it happens to be the column header. All right. And I also said you can create a custom report. I don't like creating custom reports because you can't do anything in a custom report that you cannot do in one of the existing reports. So instead of creating a custom report, I'd much rather modify one of the reports that I've got. But you can create a custom report. And down here, under the overview, you have create a report. You can choose to create a sales report, customer report, inventory report, purchasing, or employees. And when you choose one of those types of reports, it then says, what kind do you want? Do you want summarized? Do you want a graph? Do you want a detailed report? Do you want sales tax? Do you want a mobile sales? And no matter which one you choose, as you go through it, you can't add anything that's not in a standard report. You can modify a standard report that's kind of what you want and add or remove the items you want. Easier than going in here and creating one from scratch. But you can create one from scratch. You pick what date range you want to run this report for. Choose what columns you want to be part of this report. And you add or remove any columns you don't want. But again, you can't add anything that you couldn't get off the standard sales report. And so I find it easier to start with the standard report than it is to go in and customize that report. So, anybody have any questions?
Like it back here. Sure. We can do it.
We're unmuted.
Okay. We're unmuted. Hi, Daryl.
Hi.
Hey.
I just unmuted everybody there. So
Oh,
if you have a question, you can feel free to ask.
Obi-Wan.
So, I don't hear any questions.
No, we're just talking about all the stuff we're gonna do now that you've taught us everything.
All those fun things to go play with.
Yeah, you bet. Our item list.
Yeah.
We're trying to modify our item list to show. Well, it works pretty well.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, we're good. Actually, we were doing it. We've been playing with it and working with it, and it's great.
All right. Well, if you think of any questions, you can just give us a call, 916-368-1070, or you can drop me a note at darrellf@bighairydog.com. That is DARRELLF like Frank @bighairydog.com, and I'll be glad to answer your questions for you.
Cool.
Great.
This webinar was also recorded, and so you will be able to review the fun stuff on this webinar if you have any questions.
Daryl, I just had one question.
Yes.
What about the unsettled credit card report? Can you go to that and show it to us?
So which one again?
Unsettled credit cards?
It doesn't have an unsettled credit cards.
Well, we have a report that we can print out that's unsettled on the dashboard.
Oh wow! What?
Okay. Up here on the reports, you do have a dashboard report.
There was one on there that somehow is up on ours. It's unsettled.
Only because they have unsettled credit cards.
It doesn't ring a bell with me at all,
Okay.
because generally speaking, when you do a credit card, it's going to get approved right away, or
Right.
it's going to get denied right away, and you won't have any that are unsettled.
Somebody
And
ran. That did-
And that's
point of sale,
control says is that they are showing that they're all cleared, but we can still run a report that says unsettled credit card.
now point of sale also automatically settles your credit cards, generally at midnight each day, and so you don't have to worry about settling them. Now, if you got one of those lucky weird ones where you tried to do a voice authorization or a manual authorization and it didn't go through all the way, you might get a notice that comes up that says you have unsettled transactions.
Because she just ran it again. It says unsettled credit card summary, and it's got the card names, and she says they've all gone through, but we're kind of, why is it saying unsettled credit card summary?
I don't know why I would say that. Like I said, I'm not even familiar with that report at all.
Okay.
I know, like my mother's West Bank, if my brother used her debit card, it was at the top, that hadn't cleared, like another days before debit goes through.
Yeah, that particular report just does not ring a bell at all.
Trips.
Well, if you want, I can scan it in and show you. Well, I mean,
More than that.
just finding it, that's going to...
Send me a copy and we'll take a look at it.
Okey-doke.
If you're under reports, under payments, there's nothing for unsettled credit cards. And under credit cards themselves, it's just a list of the credit cards that have been run. And under modify,
He needs nothing.
we've got,
Okay, well, we'll get the pathway and send it to you, okay?
yeah, and then I will get a hold of Intuit and figure out what's going on, since I hadn't seen that one. Then I'll let you know what they tell me.
Yeah. Huh? Okay, awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, everybody have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye, Daryl.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.